Thank you for joining us for the 4th Annual Global Summit on Kidney Innovations, Global Kidney Patient Voice, the Key to Accelerating Innovation, a collaborative partnership between the American Association of Kidney Patients and the George Washington School of Medicine and Health Sciences. My name is Kevin Fowler, and I'm a former board member for the American Association of Kidney Patients, and I continue to serve as a AAKP Ambassador for the state of Missouri. I'm also someone living with kidney disease, having received a preemptive kidney transplant in 2004. And based upon my experience of living with the consequences of polycystic kidney disease and facing the reality of kidney failure, my goal was to avoid dialysis by receiving a preemptive transplant. And my hope for all individuals suffering from kidney disease and facing kidney transplant is for them never need to go on dialysis and to receive a preemptive transplant, so that a preemptive transplant becomes more the norm rather than the exception as it is right now. And as a fellow patient advocate, or as a fellow patient, I have a deep passion for patient advocacy and patient engagement in the production and device lifecycle of novel treatments that answer the need and preferences of patients and their families. And those that are going through the journey of kidney disease firsthand, who really know what it's all about. This passion has led me into a career spanning over 30 years in both commercial and research and development roles for commercial enterprises. In addition to my role with the AEKP, I'm also the patient editor for the Clinical Journal of the American Society of Nephrology, CJSN. I'm also on the board of directors of the Kidney Health Initiative, which is a public-private partnership between the American Society of Nephrology and the US FDA. KHI has a mission to catalyze innovation and development of safe and effective patient-centered therapies for people living with kidney diseases. And for today's session on Global Kidney Patient Voice, the key to accelerating innovation, industry efforts across the globe advancing kidney patient care, I had the pleasure of conducting a series of interviews with national and global companies in the kidney space that are leading the effort to disrupt the status quo by making an investment in new treatments to address the many unmet needs of people living with kidney diseases, while also working tirelessly to integrate the patients and their unique insights along the way. In full disclosure, based upon my professional background working with life science companies, I have consulted for some of the organizations that I have interviewed. I enjoyed speaking with all these industry representatives across the globe and ask you to join me in watching excerpts of these interviews. Full interviews will be available post-Global Summit on demand on AAKP's social media platforms and YouTube channel. Thank you, and I hope you're just as inspired listening to these discussions as I was conducting them.
I think first of all, we need to recognize that there is a really big unmet need in terms of improving mortality and rates of progression of chronic kidney disease for these patients with kidney problems. But as important as those endpoints are, I think that we also need to acknowledge that those aren't the only important things to patients. And really the most important thing for patients is having better quality of life as well. I mean, you can extend length of life, but without quality of life, that's really meaningless, and that's not the goal of anybody. And so, that's why having patients involved in the decision-making regarding clinical trials, the endpoints, the research that's done is so important, so that their voice can be heard and we can make sure that their needs are met by these trials and by these new treatments that we're developing. It's really the comorbidities of chronic kidney disease that are actually causing the high mortality and the reduced quality of life that these patients experience. So, in terms of quality of life, you mentioned pruritus, you mentioned anemia, those things really do influence how a patient feels. And then in terms of mortality, comorbidities like cardiovascular disease, hypertension, diabetes, metabolic syndrome, and gout are really very, very important comorbidities to address, because these comorbidities are actually killing our patients. So, we know that gout, for example, is not just an episodic disease that causes some pain in your joints, but it's really a progressive disease of uric acid accumulation throughout your whole body, even inside your heart. And so unless these comorbidities like gout are addressed, we're really going to continue to have problems with mortality and reduced quality of life. And how can patients help? Well, I would say take interest and take action. Industry and healthcare organizations do provide quite a bit of resources as far as educational material and even platforms to reach out to people who have those experiences with these disease states. But really, the crucial thing is that patients start talking to each other, start educating each other, and also that they reach out to their government representatives so that sensible policy can be made on a governmental level to make sure that these comorbidities of chronic kidney disease are addressed appropriately. I work for Horizon Therapeutics, and we have a medication that we give to patients with refractory gout. These patients with refractory gout really have no other kind of therapeutic option to help treat their disease. Now, this medication, pegloticase, was actually introduced 12 years ago as a possible medication, and even 12 years later, we are still doing clinical research trials to try to make this medication safer and more effective. And I'm really proud that we just actually have published the results of the largest randomized controlled trial for this medication that's been done, that has nearly doubled the efficacy of the medication for patients with uncontrolled gout, and has also made it a lot safer for patients as well. So clearly, clinical research, basic research are a huge part of what Horizon contributes to these patients who have these medical conditions. In addition to that, supporting patient advocacy organizations is really important. And we take an active role in that. And then on an individual patient support level, we know that sometimes, these disease states and the kinds of medications that we need to use to treat them are difficult for patients to navigate. And so we take a lot of care to provide at a patient level a lot of assistance to make sure that patients can get on the therapy and get the best outcome. I actually have a personal story to tell. My daughter just had her wisdom teeth out this morning, and the list of instructions with the changing the dressings and the cold pads and the different medications and when to clean and when to irrigate, was going on for a long time. And even as a medical professional, I felt, I needed a little bit of help and assistance so that I could, help my daughter recover from that procedure. And I know that this is difficult for patients as well. And so we try our hardest to make sure that that's available to them.
I'd like to thank again the vast number of industry partners that took the time to sit down and have a discussion with me. Through AEKP Global, launched in 2019, AAKP is engaged globally because we are committed to educating patients, leaders, and companies across the globe on the importance of kidney disease prevention, new innovations in treatment, and the opportunity to save more lives. We believe that united patient voice can drive innovation and the policy decisions that determine timely, regulation, and payment for new and safe treatments. Globally, AAKP is working with patients, medical professionals, researchers, and medical industry allies, such as those you just heard from, to cultivate a united consortium led by patients. AAKP believes that this global consortium can advance innovation and change kidney care in countries where health systems or infrastructures do not support patient consumer choice or access to care treatments. Again, thank you to each of our industry partners for sharing with us the innovations their companies are working on or has available to improve kidney care from prevention and diagnosis to transplantation or access to care treatments.